Welcome back into the College Football Every Game on the Board podcast, part number 2 with Matt Josephs at Mid Major Matt on Twitter. Matt, welcome in. How you feeling?
Feeling good, Drew. We're in that weird time where college basketball is rapidly approaching and NBA obviously getting started, the NHL. So a lot of sports going on right now.
Absolutely. And shout out to you getting your ACC Media Day credentials. And that's where you were yesterday, right? How was it?
It was good down in Charlotte, North Carolina. Talked to a lot of basketball coaches, some players. Getting forward to the college basketball season. Obviously, it doesn't start this coming Monday, but the Monday after that. So we're looking forward to it. I always enjoy college basketball handicapping, especially early on when you might be able to find some edges that maybe you don't find later on in the season.
I think it's the most inefficient market out of the major sports. I mean, we'll see some of those college basketball totals, even sides, but like the totals will move 10 points. I've never seen something like that in another sport, Matt. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, especially the extra games, because the people who bet the extra games are the ones who pay attention in the extra games. So it's always funny whenever I like a play and the line's moving in the other direction, it kind of makes me want to reevaluate things because I think I know a lot about those conferences and those schools. But when something's going against me in the extra category, then I'm usually worried.
Okay. Well, guys, follow him on Twitter at MidMajor Matt. He knows his college basketball radio show, ESPN Richmond, and ACC Media Day. That's why we didn't do this part yesterday, guys. So we're doing it today. And if you're new to the Every Game on the Board podcast, it's in the name of the pod. We go over every single game on the board. This is part number 2. You can catch part number 1 with Jeff Nadeau. We will have 3 and 4 coming up if you're listening podcast form, and we had Sammy P already do it live just before this. But for this section, it's 137, 138, the rotation number, the little numbers next to the team name, all the way down to 168. Okay, and that 168 is UNLV and Fresno State. So we got about 15 games here, guys, and starting off 5 p.m. Eastern time in the Sun Belt. We got the perfect guy up for it. Group of 5, mid-major Matt here. Arkansas State and UL Monroe. Monroe -2 in the hook is the favorite, 56.5 being the total. What happened here? Arkansas State used to be like the premier program, and UL Monroe kind of the doormat, but now they're laying points here, and they look pretty good last week here, Matt. What are you thinking with the Warhawks hosting Arkansas State?
Yeah, this is one of those classic games that unless you can find an angle, don't bet on it because it's the 2 worst teams pretty much in the Sun Belt. You look at Louisiana Monroe. The one angle that I like to play, and we played it last week to success, was Louisiana Monroe is one of the worst first half defenses in college football. They allow over 21-ish points per game. It's on like 20-ish points per game. And Georgia Southern coming off the loss to James Madison, we thought they would come out fast, and predictably they did. They scored 30 of those points in that first half, and so that was an easy winner there. And this is a Louisiana Monroe team that doesn't get good quarterback play, but last week Blake Murphy threw for 320 yards in the loss, and maybe they finally found a quarterback, so that's something to watch there. And then Arkansas State losing by 10 to Coastal Carolina. They're not a very good team. Normally I would, as I say, try and take advantage of a team total against Louisiana Monroe, but Arkansas State hasn't shown me anything here. So Drew, I couldn't play the 2 angles that I usually like involving these 2 teams. So this was pretty much an easy pass for me.
We got UNC and Georgia Tech up next. Speaking of the ACC, 8 o'clock Eastern in Bobby Dodd. This should be a pretty good atmosphere. 63.5 being the total. Tar Heels -12-point road favorites. You liking anything in Midtown Atlanta?
So I write articles for ftnbets.com, and one of the articles I do that comes out on Tuesdays is a spots article, and kind of talking about letdown spots, look ahead spots, things like that. I mean, this is as classic a letdown spot as you can get. North Carolina coming off the loss at home to UVA. They were just ranked in the top 10, and it feels like there was a statistic I saw that the last like 7 or 8 games that they played as a top 10 team, like they've lost 5 or 6 of them, which is pretty crazy to think about. And so the national title hopes, although faint, are probably gone. They're still in the ACC race, so that's really good. But Drake May, his Heisman hopes, who knows what that's going to happen here. So you have to wonder about a unfocused North Carolina. The problem is Georgia Tech dominates this series. Georgia Tech went to Chapel Hill and won this game last year, 21-17. They've won a bunch the last couple of years in this series. The problem is trying to figure out which Georgia Tech you're going to get. This is a team that's won at Wake. It's won at Miami already this year, but it's also lost at home to Bowling Green, and it's lost at home to Boston College. So if you think the right Georgia Tech shows up, that's a gift getting 12 points here in this situation. The problem is if the wrong Georgia Tech shows up, then they're going to get blasted in this game, and it's going to be a blowout.
Staying in the ACC here, guys, we got 141, 142, Clemson and NC State. Clemson laying doubles on the road, 43.5 being the total. Seeing Clemson minus 10 pretty much across the board, Matt. Bet Online showing a 9.5 if you do like the Tigers. Maybe check it out there at betonline.ag. I don't know, Matt. I don't want to lay doubles with this team. This team just went down to Miami, got beat, and now, I mean, it says volumes about NC State, this line, but do you like anything here? You know the ACC.
I thought this line was crazy when it came out because I saw that NC State was a double-digit home dog against a Clemson team that I don't know what they have left. This is Clemson that's got 3 losses already this season. Antonio Williams, one of their better wide receivers, out for this game. Safety R.J. Mickens had appendix surgery, so he's out for this game. Justin Maskell, the defensive lineman, is day-to-day for this one. So you've got a Clemson team coming off the really tough loss to Miami, and once again, it's like, you're on the 1-yard line. Do a quarterback sneak. Instead, on 4th down, they have Cade Klubnik trying to run around the edge. And, of course, Miami has the speed and took care of that one. So I don't know where Clemson's head's at. The problem is when you back NC State, you never know what you're going to get. I backed them for the season. I'm at 5.5 wins. They've got 4. I don't know if they're going to get 2 more wins. I hope they do, and I'm hoping this is one of them. But this is an NC State team coming off a bye week. They obviously have had some offensive issues. MJ Morris replacing Brennan Armstrong at quarterback. I'm hoping to get a really good effort here. It's funny because I was talking to some guys from Raleigh down at ACC Media Day, and I said, guys, I mean, obviously you guys cover this team. NC State plus 10 has to be the play, right? And they're like, well, I don't know. So they suggested NC State in the first half in this one. They think that there's going to be a really good crowd for this one. I think you got to play NC State to somehow, whether it's the first half, whether it's the full game. I just don't know if Clemson's going to be focused for this one. I wonder, Dabo's the type of guy, I feel like, Drew, that you check out on when your goals and when your championship dreams disappear. Like, I feel like Dabo's still going to be hard on his team, and some of the guys may check out against him. That's just a feel I have. So somehow I'm playing NC State in this game, whether it's first half or full game.
Interesting handicap there, Matt. You bring up, like, getting media guys' kind of opinions with the betting line. I mean, not to get in particulars and throw certain names out there, but in that kind of realm of person following teams, do a lot of them bet or no? From what you gather,
I feel like some of them do. I feel like some of them don't. I mean, obviously, I'm an insider for the Virginia schools, which is ironic because I can't bet on them because we can't bet on them here in the state of Virginia. But like, I feel like some of them do, and I feel like some of them think that it's almost underhanded or dirty to bet on them because they know more than people. They may know about an injury before other people. So it's kind of mixed, Drew. I think some of them do, and I think some of them don't.
Well, and also, I guess a follow-up to that, like if you're the beat writer for, NC State and you have access to injuries, are you allowed to bet? Like, is it in your contract that you're not allowed, or do they just, you can if you want to?
I think unless you work for the team or the school, I think you can. I think that you probably do see. I mean, I know that probably during the COVID time, Drew, when there were all sorts of weird line moves and people who knew about the COVID outbreaks on teams before other people did, it was probably a trainer or it was probably a doctor who told somebody who then moved the line and then other people saw the line move. So I do think it happens. I just, it's much like this cheating scandal that Michigan's in, Drew. We know that every team does it. It's just Michigan was dumb enough to get caught. So like, I do imagine that there are people who take advantage of the extra information that they have. It's just how much do they do it for? Is it a small bet that doesn't move the line? Is it a larger bet that does move the line? I think it does happen. I just think some people are careful about it.
Okay. All right. Good stuff, Matt. As we'll get back to the games, 143, 144, 330 Eastern, Southern Miss, App State. We're seeing App State minus 17-point home favorites, 55 the total in Boone, North Carolina.
Speaking of teams, it feels like have mailed it in on the season. Southern Miss coming off the 55-3 loss to South Alabama. They're going to be a team that I'm going to try with most offenses, or at least good offenses, to focus on the team totals. I mean, Southern Miss, here's some fun stats. Southern Miss has not beaten an FBS team this year. They have not scored a touchdown on offense the last 2 games, and the defense surrendered 50 points for the 3rd time this season last week. So it's a team I feel like that's pretty much gone. They don't know who their quarterback is for this week. Billy Wiles got taken out, so they don't know. He is the leader on the depth chart, but they think that that's just kind of a placeholder situation here. And then you got App State coming off the tough loss against ODU. They've got Marshall next week, which is a very important game for them. Question mark here, Nate Noel, their really good running back, is questionable for this one. Did not play last week. That made a difference for App State. So watch his status here. If we find out he's going to play, I'd play an App State team total over. They should win this game rather easily, especially coming off the loss to Old Dominion.
Speaking of Marshall, they are at Coastal Carolina, 6 o'clock Eastern kick here, guys. 46 being the total, 45 at BOL, -4. That's the Marshall Thundering Herd on the road against the Chanticleers.
So I don't trust Marshall's offense enough to lay 4 on the road. I do trust their defense here. I think Marshall's defense figured some things out against James Madison. They played one of their better games of the season. Obviously, you're looking at it, you're like, wait, they gave up 20 points. Well, I mean, look, they were on the field a ton because the offense didn't do anything. So I like that situation here on the Coastal Carolina side. Grayson McCall is doubtful for this game. So certainly that's something. Their offense goes as he goes, and they didn't look great against Arkansas State in that road game. So I'd probably look at like a Coastal Carolina team total under here, especially if, and for the people who are new, you're looking for the key numbers, 13.5, 14.5, 17.5. If you can get one of those key numbers and go under on it, then I would certainly look at it. I don't know how much Coastal Carolina is going to score in this game with Marshall's really good defense and Grayson McCall most likely not playing in this game.
Yeah, 45 being the total. Maybe look to the under. We got ODU and James Madison up next, 8 o'clock Eastern primetime kick here. JMU, man, they're getting priced like a heck of a favorite here. -3 touchdowns, -20.5 at some books, 49 being the total. So JMU, man, they have been a wagon. You looking to get on them again?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much every time. You've got an ODU team that if you took the over on ODU's season win total, you won because it was 3.5. They got 4 wins. I had the under, so I lost on that one, unfortunately. But ODU's have improved. They're playing better than people think. Obviously, they have a small shot at a bowl game in this one. They're not going to win here. JMU's had extra time to prepare, obviously, because the Marshall game was on Thursday night, I want to say last week, Wednesday or Thursday. So they've had that couple of extra days. It's interesting because they're ranked now 25th. Last year when they got ranked, they were ranked 1 week last year. They went to Georgia Southern and they played badly in that game. And if you remember, we talked about it when we did the JMU Georgia Southern game. They remember that game and they crushed Georgia Southern. I think they're going to remember how they played when they got ranked last year. And I think they're going to have a really focused, solid effort here. ODU's defense is all right. I think JMU can name their score in this situation. They won this game 37-3 last year.
Like it, Matt. Great breakdown, man. And speaking of Thursday night, do you like anything Georgia Southern, Georgia State tonight? Did you touch anything?
Well, I mean, I would fade my orange, but I also am extremely biased against them because this is the part of the year. Last year they won 6 games and then they lost their next 6. This year they won 4 and they've lost every game since. It's a tough place. Blacksburg on Thursday night should be on every college football fan's bucket list, or at least stay there through Enter Sandman when they run out of the tunnel. And then if you want to leave, you can. But Thursday nights in Blacksburg is absolutely amazing. I've been to several of them. I would have gone this year if Syracuse was worth checking out. They're not worth checking out. So I leaned to the Hokies here, but I thought it was interesting. There was a lot of 3s out there, and now there's some 2.5s popping up. Almost like people seem to think that Syracuse is going to play well, which I don't see how it happens, but we'll see in that one.
And do you want to answer Bob's question, or should we move on? Can you see it?
I do see it. Baseball's done. Look, obviously it's tough. I'm over it. I've said there's only 2 teams that aggravate me more than a day. It's the Eagles and it's Syracuse basketball. Other than that, I was disappointed. It was a tough night of sleep that night, but I'm kind of over it already. Baseball's done. And I'm ready to just kind of move on to spring training in February, and we'll see what happens next year.
Talking about the Phillies guys and the exit and the World Series now. Thanks for chiming in, Bob. As we get back to directional Michigan schools here, Matt. Western Michigan, Eastern Michigan, 47 being the total, -3. That's the Broncos as the road favorite on the gray turf.
Well, you know what we do here, Drew? It was my best bet last week. It's probably not going to be my best bet this week because there's one that I like better. Eastern Michigan is an underdog. I don't have the number in front of me. I think it's 32-13-3, something. 32-13-1 is what Chris Creighton is as a road underdog. Here he's a home underdog. Eastern Michigan, Drew, just doesn't do, they don't do, they're not great on offense. They're very good on defense. Western Michigan is very inconsistent. Obviously, this thing jumped because it was a pick 'em, I believe, earlier this week. So there's a lot of money coming in on Western Michigan. So maybe there's an injury I don't know about. But Eastern Michigan is an underdog, especially at home, Drew. I'm just going to blindly bet them. It's a trend that's been very good over the years, and Chris Creighton just knows how to get his team up. Obviously, this is the start of the directional Michigan trophy, challenge that they have with them and Central and Western Michigan. I'll take Eastern Michigan as the home dog in this one. Chris Creighton just knows how to cover in this situation.
Have they really created a rivalry like with a trophy and everything? Because I'd love that if so.
There was a reference to it. So now I don't know if it was somebody making fun of it or if it was an actual trophy. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that all the directional Michigans kind of play each other in a round robin, and then whoever has the best record gets the trophy.
All right. Let us know, guys, if you're from the Michigan area and you know a little insight on that, as we'll head from Michigan to Ohio for Miami of Ohio and Ohio. 39 being the total here, Matt, -7. Pretty much across the board. That is the Ohio Bobcats is the home favorite.
So pretty good chance of showers in this game, and that will certainly affect these teams. Ohio has a solid run game, but they've also got the pass game. I think they were looking ahead to this one because this is the important game in the other division away from Toledo. The winner of this game will be in the driver's seat. Obviously, Miami, Ohio losing to Toledo last week wasn't very good. It was also not very good that Brett Gabbert broke his leg, so he's out for this game. And I think there's some people who are betting against them because of that. Avion Smith got a lot of time last year, and he's not Brett Gabbert, but I think Avion Smith is pretty good. Obviously, that defense is pretty good. I think there might be some value, especially if this thing keeps going up on Miami, Ohio in this situation. I just think that they're a live underdog. I think people just see that Gabbert's out, and they're like, oh, I can't bet on this team. Their backup's got experience. Their defense is good enough. I feel like an ugly chance of showers here, Drew. Low total. Ohio won this game last year. I might be interested in the underdog in this situation.
Heading to the Big 12 Conference up next here, guys. Oklahoma and Kansas, 65 being the total. The Sooners laying 9 as the road favorite. We are seeing the sponsor of the show, guys, betonline.ag. The game starts here. Check out BetOnline, betonline.ag, and get down on the games. They are hanging +9.5 for Kansas if you like that. If you like the Kansas side, like I do, Matt, I think the dog is barking here. I bet them both on the point spread and on the money line. So what are you liking here? Oklahoma and Kansas.
Rain and wind. So that's going to make things, it depends on, and when I mention the wind, it's at least double-digit miles per hour. There's probably some gusts that might go a little bit more. And I think that could affect Oklahoma here in this situation. Last week, they nearly lost that game to UCF, and I'm kicking myself because that was a lot of points, and I just didn't believe in UCF's defense to take care of business in that situation. Now, I'll say this. Oklahoma does have Bedlam next week, but I think that you would get the look ahead from Oklahoma State in their game than Oklahoma because Kansas has been kind of a thorn in their side. Obviously, they've won these games, but like last year was 52-42. So that was a really high-scoring game. We don't know who the quarterback's going to be, whether it's Jason Bean or Jalon Daniels. Kansas coming off the bye week, so they're going to be a week more healthy. And if Oklahoma's not focused, Kansas runs this offense with a lot of motion and a lot of tricks to it. So if you're not focused, it's an offense that's tough to prepare for. I agree with you here, Drew. If I was to play something in this situation, it would be the home team. But certainly watch the weather as we get closer as to how much wind there will be and how much rain there may be.
Sure. And we saw Kansas +10.5. Now they're only getting +9. That BetOnline is hanging 9.5. So, hey, Oklahoma and Kansas getting after it. We got Indiana and Penn State in the Big Ten here. This is the exact profile you want to be betting the Nittany Lions, in my opinion, Matt. -32. You want that kind of when they can dominate. That's when you want to be betting James Franklin in the Nittany Lions. 46.5 being the total. It's the Hoosiers at the Nittany Lions in Happy Valley.
So I'll do something brief on this, but my best bet is from this game, so we'll come back to it. But
Okay.
yeah, you're right. I mean, James Franklin's the guy who knows the boosters. He knows the boosters bet on him. He knows how to get that touchdown. They're coming off a really tough loss. It profiles perfectly for a bet involving Penn State, which we will give at the end. It will be my best bet.
Okay, like it, Matt. And I guess we'll visit the weather for best bet section as well, guys. 3:30 Eastern, Purdue and Nebraska. Nebraska -2 in the hook across the board as the short home favorite, 39.5 the total in Lincoln.
So I try not to watch these games or be involved with the Big Ten. I just want nothing to do with it. But apparently, Drew, there's a nice path for Nebraska to represent the Big Ten West in the championship game of the conference. And then I saw the joke was, oh, they'll represent the West, and then they'll be a 28-point underdog to whoever it is, whether it's Michigan, Ohio State, or Penn State, whoever it is. But Nebraska's been a pleasant surprise. And I mean, should we really be shocked? Matt Rule does wonders wherever he goes. You know, what he did with Baylor, what he did with Temple, basically everywhere except for the NFL. Matt Rule has been very good. This one has a large potential for weather, rain and snow potentially. Wind gusts around 13 to 15 miles per hour. Now, look, neither of these, well, Purdue more than Nebraska uses the passing game. Purdue coming off the bye week. They're playing at Michigan next week. It's an ugly situation here, Drew. I won't be betting this game because I want nothing to do with it. It's one of those games that if I see it on TV, I'll switch it on to anything else other than this. But my lean would be Nebraska at home. They're just playing better football right now.
And staying in the Big Ten, Maryland, Northwestern. We're seeing the Terps -14-point road favorites, 48.5 the total.
Maryland only won this game by 7 last year, and that was a bad Northwestern team. Maryland coming off the bye week. They're going to be healthier. Corey Dyches, apologies if I mispronounce his name, the tight end. Defensive back Dante Trader Jr., offensive lineman Corey Bullock, and defensive back Tarheeb Still all look like they're going to play for this game. That's a couple of starters who have been injured, so that's good for them. Here's the thing, Drew. They've got Penn State next week at home, and obviously they played terribly. Well, they didn't play terribly, but they lost that Ohio State game, so you go to sleepy Evanston, Illinois here, Drew, and when you've got a large game next week, Northwestern coming off the 17-9 loss to Nebraska, like obviously I can't bet on Northwestern here. I can't bet on their offense or anything like that. But if you wanted to, you can make a case that Maryland could have one eye the next week and kind of have a sleepy effort against Northwestern. Now, here's the thing. Northwestern's not great, so a sleepy effort could still get you the cover here. I wouldn't take Maryland in this situation. If you were to say to me, Matt, you have to make a bet in this game, it would be Northwestern, but I'd also, throw away my television, burn my computer and not look at any sort of game cast for this thing because it could be ugly.
4 games left here, guys, on this section of every game on the board. All really good games, intriguing handicaps. Do want to give a shout out to Matt Joseph's 4 for 4, his last 4 best bets for the podcast. So we'll get a best bet from him as well. And a reminder, we are brought to you by Viva Tequila Seltzer, vivatequilaseltzer.com. That's where you can go get it shipped to your house. Viva, 4.5% ABV, 0 sugar. If you don't like hangovers, it's for you. It is a smooth, drinkable, hard seltzer with tequila in it. Grow up, drink tequila. Back to the games here, guys. Air Force in Colorado State. -12 in the hook. That's the Falcons as the road favorite, 47 being the total. Air Force at Colorado State in the Mountain West here, Matt.
Interesting, last year, Air Force won this game 24-12, and that's when Colorado State was horrendous. Now they head to Colorado State. Rain is possible with this one. Wind gusts around 10, 13 miles per hour, something to watch here. Maybe it gets better, maybe it gets worse. Obviously, it would affect Colorado State more. Colorado State wants to throw the ball more. It's funny, Drew, if you looked at normal teams, this would be one of the epic sandwich spot in the world for Air Force. Coming off the game against Navy, they've got Army next week in Denver. So you would think that there might be a lesser effort, but it's Air Force, Drew. Like there's no sort of situation where I would ever say Air Force wouldn't be focused for a football game. I mean, it's just the academies, what they do on a day-to-day basis on their campus between school and between, the drills and stuff and then practicing football. Like there's not a team that could handle any sort of adversity better than the 3 academies here. So while some will look at this as a sandwich, I look at this as, yeah, so what? It's just a typical week for, a tough week for Air Force. You look at the Colorado State side, where's their head at? Tough loss to UNLV in that game. I mean, that was a game they had, and I believe, Drew, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, UNLV scored a late touchdown in that game to get the victory here. Double digits. Colorado State's intriguing here, but I don't see how they're going to make stops against Air Force. Like, I think Air Force is going to be efficient with their possessions. I think they're going to score a lot of touchdowns. Can Colorado State match that? Maybe I'd be interested in the over here, Drew, but here's what I'm thinking. If the wind and the rain still kind of sticks around here, I think the total might come down a little bit. And I think that might actually make me like the over a little bit more in that situation. So I would take the over here, but I'd also wait and see if it starts to come down a little bit more. I just think Air Force, one of the most efficient teams in the country. I think they're going to score a lot of touchdowns in this game, and Colorado State might answer with some touchdowns of their own.
Yeah, Air Force they've been great. I mean, in terms of like winning the Commander's Trophy, like we were talking about those three teams, I think Air Force is by far the best academy. And I wouldn't be surprised if they win the Mountain West here, guys. So I would really pump the brakes if you're looking to go against Air Force. And speaking of having a tough time against Air Force, Wyoming just recently lost to Air Force, and they're on the road here, catching 5 at Boise State on the blue turf here. So it's Boise State at home, hosting Wyoming, 49 being the total. Boise State minus 5-point home favorites.
So this one actually has a situation where there's going to be wind at the beginning of the game, and it's going to die down as the game goes along. So there could be a great live betting opportunity depending upon how much it is at the start and how much it dies down as the game goes along here. We handicappers always like to pat ourselves in the back when we do things right. Drew just said that we've gotten 4 best bets in a row. I will also, I don't know what the opposite is, but I will also say, I gave out on this show and many shows that I like Taylon Green as the sleeper for the Heisman. It was like 800 to 1. Obviously had no shot. I only put $1 on it, but to see going from him having all this hype in the preseason to now sharing time with what's his name, Drew? Matson Maddox or whatever it is, he's sharing the backfield with him. So I'll tell you, I was wrong there. And obviously I basically lit $1 on fire by putting it on him. So I will tell on myself there. But basically here, Drew, it's interesting. Boise State I feel like they should be playing better, but they're just not. An interesting thing is they may have George Holani in this game. It sounds like the running back's going to be back. I'll tell you this, if you play DFS and if this game is in there, George Holani might be cheaper than might be really cheap and be able to have you put in other slots. Something to look for here is George Holani's price in DFS if this game is in there. You look at Wyoming, they're also coming off the bye week. Wyoming's defense is really good. We've won with Wyoming in the past. I don't love Andrew Peasley at quarterback, but Wyoming just plays this really tough defense. They're just one of these teams that's kind of a thorn in your side. The question is, can they score enough here? I kind of like the under, Drew. I think this one's an under here. Obviously, going against Boise State most years with an under is a tough thing, but like their offense just isn't the same. I expect Wyoming to be in this game, so I kind of lean to the under here.
Good breakdown, Matt, as we head to arguably the biggest game of the weekend, Oregon and Utah, 3:30 Eastern, 47 being the total. It's the Ducks, minus 6.5-point road favorites. I like this Oregon team. I really do, Matt. I mean, I think their ceiling is the national championship. I think they could win it all, but this is a tough trip here to Salt Lake and Rice-Eccles, and always a tough team, well coached in Utah, and really all they do is win in Salt Lake. What do you like here in the Conference of Champions?
I'd actually argue, and I know the SEC people will be mad, but I actually argue that Kyle Whittingham might be the best coach in America. Obviously, look, Nick Saban's great, and Kirby Smart is great, and Harbaugh's great, and all these guys are great. But if you look at the injuries that Utah's had all season, they haven't had their full team. I mean, look, they went into the year, they thought they were going to have Cam Rising at some point. Cam Rising hasn't played yet. They lose Kuthi, or whatever his name is, the tight end, who's really good. Their depth chart, I think, I saw at one point almost 50% of their starters were out. And yet Utah is where they're at. And, they beat USC last week. And I love the little strategy that they used last week, that when USC substituted, Utah, who's able to substitute, would substitute at their own speed and cause USC to either force a snap too early or have to call a timeout. Kyle Whittingham is he's just really good. So I know in the comments, all the SEC people are going to kill me, but I think Kyle Whittingham's the best coach in America. That said, Drew, I don't think that this whole like 34 points they scored against USC, like his offense ain't that good. And I think this is an under. I think you got Oregon that has a really good offense, but Utah's got a really good defense. The concerning part for me there is their secondary. Utah's secondary struggled at times against Oregon State, Sky Bolton, a couple of weeks ago. So maybe they struggle a little bit with Franklin of Oregon. But I think this is an under. I think Oregon's defense can hold Utah down a little bit, and I think that Utah can do the same. So my pick here would be the under.
I'm an SEC guy, and I'm not going to argue you. I think Kyle Whittingham, you can make the argument, is the best coach in college football. It's almost like too bland of a question, though, because it depends what you mean by like best. Some of these guys, like Nick Saban, it's like you get the program rolling, and then it's just like it just produces itself almost. Like it almost matters more to like bring up, a mid-level program to like the elevation that Utah really is right now. Like I would even throw out names like Lance Leopold and what he's doing at Kansas. Like where does he rate, right, on like the great coaches out there? And to compare him to like Kirby Smart, who's winning national championships, but obviously a little bit more fertile recruiting ground, and he has a lot more to kind of sell in terms of facilities and things of that nature. So it's kind of a difficult question, but I don't have too big of an argument coming from an SEC guy and saying Kyle Whittingham's the best.
I think it's more about, obviously what Kirby Smart is doing at Georgia is he's winning with the best players. I mean, look at Georgia's defense. Look at the Eagles defense. It's like all Georgia guys, and Eagles defense just shut down Miami. Like, it's doing what you do with the talent you have. And Kyle Whittingham has lost a ton of starters this year and has not had a healthy team. And yet look where they are, Drew, in this really tough Pac-12. They've got this huge game on Saturday that's going to help them or hurt them, whatever it is. Whatever Kyle Whittingham does with a full roster, that's what I'm kind of using, Drew, is like, look, obviously coaches who win with the best players, Nick Saban for years had the #1 recruiting class. He'd win national championship. Clemson had #1 recruiting classes. Dabo won championships. But like Dabo's showing this year that maybe he's not as good of a coach when he doesn't have the talent. Kyle Whittingham doesn't have the talent this year, and yet look at where Utah is.
All good points, Matt. Hey, guys, let us know in the comments below if you're watching on YouTube who you think the best head coach is, where you agree, where you disagree. All is welcome, guys. And feel free to hit us up on Twitter. @MidMajorMatt is where you can find Matt. I'm on Twitter @DrewMartinBets. And always remember, wherever you're downloading your podcasts at, every game on the board. Make sure to subscribe. Don't miss any episodes. We got 4 parts to week number 9. This is part number 2 with Matt Josephs. We got 1 game left. And last shout out here to our sponsors, betonline.ag. The game starts here. Go check them out. Get down on the games, betonline.ag. And Viva Tequila Seltzer, vivatequilaseltzer.com. Get it shipped to your house. 4.5% ABV. 0 sugar. vivatequilaseltzer.com. All right, last game here for the segment. 167, 168. A little bit of a degenerate special feel, although we do have a Hawaii game, Matt. UNLV and Fresno State. Fresno State, the Bulldogs, -7 in the hook as the home favorite. 57.5 being the total in the Valley.
By the way, you could also say, is a part of this game, Jeff Tedford, one of the better coaches in America with what he's doing at Fresno State. Obviously, it's on a lower level, and the opponents that he plays on a week-to-week basis aren't what everybody else is. But Jeff Tedford's done some amazing things at Fresno State. They're coming off the bye week. From what I'm reading, we're not sure about Mikey Keene's status, the quarterback. I mean, it hasn't really mattered. Fresno State just keeps winning. Boise State's their opponent next week. Maybe one eye looking at next week, but then again, Boise State's not the headline opponent as it has been in the past. And then you look at UNLV and the confidence that they got after that win over Colorado State here. It's a tight game, Drew. Obviously, when you're in Vegas, you're closer to the UNLV program here. I have a small lean to UNLV, although I'm concerned their defense may not be able to slow down Fresno State in this game. It's one that I'm probably not going to play here. So do you have a thought? Maybe you've seen UNLV a little bit more than I have.
I like UNLV. I mean, they're one of the best teams against the spread this year, guys. So and when that happens in Las Vegas, it doesn't take a secret very long. So this team is the program overall is heading in the right direction. And I thought it would be. Like if they got the right coach in there, they got Allegiant Stadium. That's where they're playing their home games, which is both a plus and a negative because you don't have like an on-campus stadium, but still it's a nice one in Las Vegas. It's not that far from the campus. Good high school football. So I would look for UNLV to kind of stay trending in the right direction. But to your point, Fresno State's very well coached. They're at home here. Not one that I bet just yet, but I might take a shot with the Rebels. I don't know. I got to dig a little bit deeper into this particular matchup. But Matt, great job as always. We got a best bet here, 4 for 4. Not to put too much pressure on you, man, but it is time for best bet. Let's try to make it 5 for 5 for the listeners. Matt Josephs at Mid-Major Matt on Twitter. Check his radio show out during the week on ESPN Richmond. Matt, take it away. Any final thoughts here, and what do we got for best bet?
So most weeks, my best bet would just blindly be Eastern Michigan plus insert number here. I've talked about it. Eastern Michigan as an underdog is tremendous. And I'm probably going to end up playing this game myself as well. Want to make sure there's no injuries. But we talked about it earlier, Drew. This is the perfect situation to be involved with Penn State. And I don't lay 30-something points ever. I just don't. Even with a guy like James Franklin, who I know would be in my corner, to be able to do what I need to in that sort of situation. So I think you know where I'm going here. I'm going to the team total here, Drew. 38.5 is the number for Penn State. Indiana gave up 44 at Maryland. Indiana gave up 52 at Michigan. They just gave up 31 points at home to Rutgers. 31 points to Rutgers is like 70 points to other people here, Drew. So I'm going, and this, I really like this one. So if you can get it, Penn State over 38.5 points. I think they're going to score like 50 potentially. If James Franklin wants to, there is the game next week against that they have that's a little important, but whatever. I'm not like, I don't care. I think they win this game something like 45-7. So give me the over on Penn State, 38.5. I'll take it at 39.5. Anything below 42, I don't think it'll be that much of a difference here. But Penn State over 38.5 points, the team total, that is my best bet. And I really like it. I think Penn State is going to bounce back after a terrible showing against Ohio State.
All right, back the truck up here. Let's make it 5 for 5. Matt Josephs, ESPN Richmond, Penn State team total over 38.5. We'll be right back with Robbie Vino. Thanks for tuning in. Matt will be back next week. Matt, great job as always. Cash those tickets.